Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to make pumpkin spice bread with pecans. And last year, I did a video on how to make the puree for the pumpkin pies and the bread. And here's the name of the video. And here's the name of the video if you want to make pumpkin pie. Okay, so I found some really good pie pumpkins. And I got a really good jack-o'-lantern pumpkin that we'll carve later. And then I was at the pumpkin patch, and you can check out that very short video. And I found this pumpkin, which I kind of thought might have been a pumpkin pie pumpkin. But then looking at it further, I think it is a small jack-o'-lantern pumpkin. But because it's small, I think we can go ahead and use it to go ahead and make the pumpkin bread. I'm going to reserve the pie pumpkins, I'll show you a couple of them, for the actual pie because I'm sure they'll be sweeter and smoother. So let's cut into both of them and see what they look like. And then you can watch my other video on going ahead and actually making the puree. But let's just take a peek and then I will go ahead and cook these up and we'll see how it goes. So let me check this out. I'm going to go ahead and cut into this and see if I can see the difference. Okay, because I'm fighting with be very careful. Okay, not to get yourself cut. I'm smelling this. This smells awfully sweet. So I think it'll make a fine bread for sure. I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to rinse off my knife and cut the other on for the official pie pumpkin. See how that looks. Almost looks very similar. Probably because I picked this when it was smaller at the pumpkin patch. It's going to be sweeter. I will go ahead and prepare these pumpkins. Okay, so I'm anxious to see the difference in the taste between the pumpkin that I'm going to use for the pumpkin bread, which is, I thought was possibly a pie pumpkin, but really probably a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, but it was small, and the one that's actually a pie pumpkin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and taste just a tiny bit because I already have it pre-measured out, which is good. So here is the one that's probably the jack-o'-lantern one, but small. I'll taste this. Has a good flavor, not too sweet though. So now I'm going to go ahead and taste the one that is the official pie pumpkin one and see what the difference is. A lot sweeter and a lot richer flavor. So I'm going to show you again. So now on the pie pumpkin one, the texture of the skin was nice and smooth, and on the jack-o'-lantern / maybe pie pumpkin, but probably not, just small, more of a ripply skin. So I hope you enjoyed this comparison. All right, so it is time to start making the bread. Okay, so I'm going to start making my pumpkin spice bread. And of course, I have this already prepared, which is really great. And the other thing I want to get just out of the way and prepared is 2 cups of pecans. So I measured out 2 cups of pecans, and I'm going to go ahead and use my mini little chopper today because it doesn't make as much of a mess. It's way easier to clean, and it'll be quite quick. Okay. Okay, I want to leave a few pieces. I don't want it minced. I want it chopped. So just put it in here. I think I can do this in 2 batches. Pretty sure. to make sure everything lines up, otherwise it won't work. Okay, so that's the size I want. And now I'm going to actually put it back into the measuring cup because it'll be easier to pour into the mixer later. Okay, so we got 2 cups to set aside. The thing that I would like to get out of the way is buttering and flouring my pan, and I'm doing pumpkin spice bread, and I'm doing actually a double batch of it. So instead of taking and doing 2 loaf pans, I like to just go ahead and put it in a 9x13. So I'm going to butter this. For me, it's easier to serve. It cooks up a little bit faster. So this is the size that I prefer, but you can certainly do 2 loaf pans with this recipe I'm giving you. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I get it all in the corners, because we don't want this to stick. And I don't like to use cooking spray because it does leave a different flavor behind, and I'd rather just have it taste like the ingredients that are already in here, which is butter and flour. Okay, then I'm going to put the butter back, like the container that I have the butter in, and then I'm going to take this plastic wrap and just make sure I thoroughly put it here, every corner. And then I'm going to take a little bit of flour. I keep on grabbing everything but the spoon. A fork will not work. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and I'm going to take it over to the sink. So now I'm going to kind of just the faucet out of the way for one thing. Just going to bang this around a little. Try to get the flour to fall where it needs to fall. And then I have a silicone brush, which works very wonderfully to go ahead and spread the flour in the remaining areas. So make sure that I have it everywhere. I didn't always used to do it this way. And then when I discovered this, it's like, this is a game changer. This works very well. Okay, so now the excess into the sink. And we're ready to go ahead and start measuring. So we're going to start with 3.5 cups of flour. I'm going to get out a butter knife so I can level off the flour as I measure it. I have to adjust the camera a little bit. Okay, so here's my bowl. So 3.5. So when measuring flour, you want to always level it off with something flat. So 1, 2, 3, and then I'll get out my 1/2 cup measure. I don't know if you saw that. Okay, 1/2. Okay, so there's the 3.5 cups of flour. And then I need 4.5 teaspoons of double acting baking powder. Now, you want to make sure that it is baking powder and not baking soda, because that will make a difference. So we need 4.5 teaspoons. Let's see. And when I go ahead and measure the baking powder, I use the lid to level it off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a half a teaspoon. That's 4.5 teaspoons. And now it's time to add the spices. So I'm going to be adding cinnamon, and I'm going to be adding ginger, and I'm going to be adding nutmeg. I'm leaving out the allspice because I found that some allspice has cloves in it and I cannot eat cloves. So if you have allspice, you can add a quarter teaspoon of allspice at this time. All right, so let's start measuring. So on the cinnamon, I'm going to do two teaspoons of cinnamon. Now, on cinnamon, I don't think you have to be quite as precise. So I'm just going to kind of do a little heaping. 1, 2. But on the other spices, they're so strong that I am going to be precise on them. So on the ginger, I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of the ginger. And I have to take the little lid off of there, and I can use that to level it off. So, trying to get the cinnamon off of the teaspoon. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of the ginger. I'm going to dip it down in there. I'm going to use the lid to level it off as well. You know what? I got to use this lid. Level it off as best as I can without making a mess, but okay, that's 1 teaspoon of ginger. And I got to put the lid back on. And then on the nutmeg, I'm only going to do a quarter teaspoon because, as I said, some of these spices are very strong. So quarter teaspoon. And this one's more cooperative. It didn't make such a mess this time. But if you've watched my channel before, you know that I am a messy cook. All right, so when everything's in the oven, I'll clean the mess up. So now I'm going to go ahead and take a fork and just start kind of pre-mixing some of this together. Okay, I'll set that aside. It smells very good already. And I'm going to work on my eggs. I need 3 eggs. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go wash my hands. So I've washed my hands, and now I'm going to add the vanilla. I like to add my extracts into the egg. So I need 2 teaspoons of vanilla. 1, 2. Whoops. All right. Then I'm just going to kind of scramble these up a little. Set this aside. And now we're going to go on to the butter and the sugar. Okay, so for the butter, I need 2/3 cup of butter. So on here, it tells you that's 1/3 right there. So I'm going to cut it right here, and then I'm going to take another stick of butter and cut it right here, and then I'll have my 2/3. So I marked it, and then I'm going to just cut it right here. And I have let the butter sit out a little so it's softer. So I'm just going to kind of put an indentation right here, kind of without going through, just kind of mark so I know where to cut when I open this up. All right, so then I'll just put these, I'll put this other one on this, I'll put these 2 in the bowl with the sugar. We'll measure out the sugar next. Now we need 1.5 cups of sugar. At the bottom here, I'm almost to where I need to add more. And when measuring sugar, you also level it off. So 1 and a half. Oh, gotta go deeper. Okay, there we go. So, whoops, 1.5. Making a mess again. All right. So I have my 1.5 cups of sugar, and then I'm going to put my butter that I measured earlier in here. I'm going to set that aside, and let's see what ingredients we have left. Let's go through what we already have. So we have 3.5 cups of flour. We have 4.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon. Oh, see, this is why you always go through. I need some salt, and I don't always put the full amount, but I do need a little bit of salt. So I'm going to go ahead and put some over here, my hand, and throw it in there, a dash of salt. And the reason I didn't do it over the top is I was noticing watching the videos that I'm always measuring my salt over the top, and if I had a mishap with the salt, I'd have way too much salt in there. So now, from watching myself, I know to try to remember not to measure the salt over everything else. Okay, so we have the salt, we have the cinnamon, and we have the 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, we have the teaspoon of ginger, we have a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and at this point you would have already added your allspice if you want allspice, or if you want cloves you would add it at that time. And then we have our butter and sugar, and we have our vanilla and eggs, we have the pumpkin puree, and we have our pecans. So now it's time to go to the mixer and put everything together. I did mix my salt into this mixture as well with a fork, and I have my oven preheated to 350. All right, so I'm going to be using this for my beater. You don't want to use one of these because that's like for fluffy eggs and sauces. You know, egg whites I'm talking about. And this is for dough, cookie dough, and making bread. All right, so I'm going to cream my butter and sugar. Okay, let's look at it. Let's see, I'm going to try to just, there we go. See how it's not sticking? So it's ready for the next ingredient, which is the eggs and the vanilla. That in. Scrape the sides a little with the fork. And then after this gets mixed up, you'll see me adding my flour mixture. Whoops. That. The flour mixture. So I'll start adding that almost immediately as soon as this gets mixed up. Okay, time to add the flour, a little bit at a time. Better slow it down a little because it's flying out of there. Pour the rest in. off for a second. I'm going to scrape the sides with a rubber spatula. Hope everybody's having a good day today. These rubber spatulas, if you don't have one and you do a lot of baking or intend on doing a lot of baking, they are very good. They work great. All right, so I'm going to mix this up and then I'm going to add the pumpkin. Okay, time to add the pumpkin. And I'm going to use that rubber spatula to get the remainder out of here. Turn up the speed. Okay, again I'm going to have to scrape down the sides because there's pumpkin on the sides here. So we want everything mixed up very well. Mix it for just a little bit longer. Ready for the pecans. Only thing I'm noticing is there's a little bit stuck here, so maybe I'll mix it just a tad more. I think I will. I'll mix it a tad more. Okay, so I mixed it for just a little bit longer, and now it's time to add the pecans. And I'm going to add them on a slow stirring setting, because I don't want to mince them. I just want them all mixed up. Okay, let's take a look at this. I might actually hand mix the rest of it just because I don't want it, like I said, I don't want it any more chopped up than it already is. So let's see how we're doing here. I need to take and scrape the batter off the beater. One of the reasons I started this channel is because you can look at a recipe, and if you don't understand, if you've never seen it done before, it's really hard to figure it out. I've always learned how to do stuff by watching. So, to me, that is the best way when it comes to cooking. All right, so I'm going to stir this up a little bit more, and I'm even noticing that there's some other spots that I missed. It's almost easier at this point to just do this part by hand. It's nice that there's a handle. This smells just delicious. Can't wait to try it. I'm actually making this right before dinner, so I'll probably be able to eat it warm, which will be nice. Like I said, it has a wonderful aroma. Okay, so now time to put it into the casserole dish. Now, if you were doing this in 2 loaf pans, it would probably take about an hour. I'm going to check this in about 30 minutes because being that it's not quite as deep, it might actually cook up faster. Okay, I'm scraping the sides as much as I can so I get all the batter. This will make a great dessert, but also I think it'd make a really good breakfast, kind of like a muffin, but in a casserole dish, kind of like more of a cake style, but it's got a lot of good ingredients in it, healthy. The pecans and the pumpkin, that's for sure. Okay, so now I'm just going to try to smooth this out as best as I can. And I did have a lot of baking powder, remember, so it is going to get larger, that's for sure. But just as much as you can, just spread it out evenly. It's not going to be perfect. Okay, I'm gonna go rinse my hands. I'm not done yet. I have an old spice container that contained just cinnamon, and what I've done with it is I've put 50-50 sugar and cinnamon in there. Hopefully this is enough, otherwise I have to make up some more. I always have some 50-50 cinnamon and sugar. So I'm gonna sprinkle this on top. Try to make it as even as I can. Like I said before, this smells really good. This is going to make my house smell just wonderful when it's baking, that's for sure. Okay, so a generous amount of cinnamon and sugar on top. I'm going to pop it in the oven. I'm going to check it in about 30 minutes. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes. Let's just take a peek. It's not done, of course, but I just want to let you... Oh, whoops, there we go. Okay, the house already smells absolutely delicious. And it looks like it's done, so let's do the toothpick test. And actually bring it out so we can look. All right. See if this is done. Really, really close. Not quite yet. Probably 3 more minutes. So I got to watch it very carefully. We're back soon. So it's been 3 minutes later, so let's do the test and see. We were very close before. And I think it's about, I'm going to just put my finger on there. I think it is about ready because I don't want to overcook it, and it is going to be a moist bread because it does have pumpkin in it. So I think it's good. I definitely don't want it to burn. So I am looking forward to taste testing. All right, now it is time for the taste test. The house still smells delicious, so it does linger for a while, which is really great. Better than any candle you could possibly get. That is delicious. The pecans really give it a nice texture, and the pumpkin goes ahead and kind of moistens those pecans, so it's really almost like melts in your mouth. It's very delicious. And the cinnamon, especially the topping part, really good. And the nutmeg and the ginger. And if you make it at home and you want to use allspice, that's great too. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you try making some pumpkin bread this season. Thank you for watching, and those of you who subscribe, thank you very much. And if you don't subscribe, it is free. Please check it out, and please like this video. Thanks for watching.